answered. Scott Jang and Toshi Hinojosa are back, along with retired Rear Admiral Mark Montgomery and lead global security analyst from Washington Post Intelligence, Josh Rogan. Okay, a lot to unpack. Admiral, I want to begin with you because I wonder if you're worried that this conflict may be escalating to a new level we have not yet seen.
Yeah, so I think the president's trying hard not to let that happen. He's trying to keep a lid on it by saying out loud proportionate responses. I think he's probably trimming the CENTCOM strike packages to, they're more aggressive than last week when the weapons missed. You know, they fired at a number of ships, nothing hit. We did a proportionate response against radars. I think when we look at battle damage tomorrow, we'll see radars plus missile sites plus stowage plus some command and control, but still all about the maritime targets in the Bandar Abbas, Strait of Hormuz area. In other words, proportionate in target selection, if not numbers, with the idea of trying to keep a lid so he can move forward with what he hopes is an opportunity for a deal, which may or may not be realistic.
I mean, you have to wonder whether this is going to, how could it not impact at least the conversations about negotiation? But here's the vice president on a timeline.
How soon could the deal happen before the midterm elections?
Oh, absolutely. No, I think we're going to know a lot before the midterm elections. Look, I think that the deal could happen in the next week, but the deal could also happen months from now.
Okay, well, here's what the president has had to say about this as well. Listen.
They're begging to make a deal.
I think they want to make a deal very badly.
Iran is dying to make a deal. We're going to end that war very quickly. They want to make a deal so badly.
We're close to a very good deal.
We're in the final throes of what will be a very, very good deal.
So we've heard from Trump more than like 38 times. It's just around the corner. You heard Vice President J.D. Vance say something different. Which one has the more realistic timeline based on your reporting?
None of the timelines offered are realistic because none of them match the facts that we're seeing on the ground. In the last week, we saw the Iranians attack northern Israel with ballistic missiles. They bombed the Kuwaiti airport. They just attacked Bahrain. They shot a U.S. A helicopter out of the sky. And Trump's response is, no big deal. He didn't want to respond. He didn't want Israel to respond. He said the Kuwaiti attack was no big deal. He didn't want to respond to the helicopter attack either until he was convinced, reportedly, by his generals today to do this limited attack. So Trump's message is, don't believe your eyes. Everything's fine. We're very close. That's obviously not true. And what Vance offered is a slightly more honest picture, which is that this could take several months. The problem is that Vance doesn't seem to think that's a bad thing. He doesn't seem to realize that Americans are suffering, our allies are getting bombed, our alliances are getting weakened, and the war is dragging our economy into an abyss. And just to say it could take a couple of days or a week or several months is a completely unacceptable answer to the American people after they entered a war with no justification, no legal explanation, and no strategy and no realistic plan for getting us out of this thing.
Is Vance's message the stronger one for the American public, more well received, or, is that not even the question?
Well, I think the president has been asked questions about politics in the middle of this, and he's been pretty honest. And he said, I'm not going to let politics interrupt what I think I'm doing for the purpose of national security. That's a pretty honest answer, and I think actually the correct one that you want out of a commander-in-chief. What Vance is saying there, I think, is basically true. You could get something now. It could take a long time. The third option, of course, is you never get anything. And in conversations that I've had with senior administration officials, they've always, even in the calls where they've been projecting some optimism, they've always said, look, it's possible this all falls apart. To Josh's point, we have seen a lot of provocations from the Iranians lately. And I think the president has shown some restraint. I'm glad we struck back today. Truthfully, this afternoon, I didn't want a proportionate response. I wanted a disproportionate response because you can't let the enemy, attack American troops in theater like this and let them feel like that they can do this with impunity.
Well, I want to hear from you as well. But Admiral, the idea of a disproportionate response. Talk to me about the evaluation thought process in that, number one. But also, if Iran is able to retaliate, does that undercut Trump's claim that the military in Iran has been destroyed?
So first, on disproportionate response, that would be attacking like economic targets. What the Israelis did the other night when they hit a petrochemical plant, attacking gas fields, things like that. But if you do that, it is going to go into a full-scale war pretty quickly because they probably still, even if the president's right, they only have 20% of their ballistic missiles left, which I tend to believe him more than the 80% that you might hear. 20% of 3,000 is about 600, 700. That's a lot of ballistic missiles they can still fire. And they probably won't waste them on Israel anymore since Israel's shooting them down. They'll put them into Jordan, into Saudi Arabia, into UAE, Qatar and Kuwait.
Yeah, I just think it's bizarre to say that the president is being honest when you just played that whole clip of him saying several times, 37 times, that we were days away from a deal. Obviously, that wasn't true. Obviously, it's not true. Obviously, he's not being honest with the American people about that. And let's look at the other things that he's saying. He's saying that we've completely decimated their military, that they're about to give up all of the nuclear dust, that they really want a deal. None of those things are true. And that's the gaslighting that we're getting from the president. It's war is peace. It's about as clear as Orwell would have described.
Well, and to that point, I think the American people are losing. They don't really trust the president at this point. They can't take his word. He believed it. He said at the beginning this would only take a few weeks. You're right. We might not get anything out of this. And from everything that we can tell, there was no clear plan to get out of this in the first place. And I think the American people are starting to see that. If we head into the midterm election and there's no deal, people are going to be hurting regardless past the midterm election, maybe well into next year, and Trump has nothing to show for it. This is not only a big problem for his party, for Congress, this is a problem for Donald Trump's presidency, and it is about to become the lame duck president moving forward.
More ahead. Admiral Montgomery and Josh, thank you